Hello, today we are going to look at simplifying surds by adding or subtracting. All right, we've got 5 questions on the screen, so let's get started. So first thing we need to know is what our square numbers are. Okay, so I would, if I was you, list out all of the square numbers. So that's 1 times 1 is 1 squared, which is 1. 2 times 2, 2 squared, which is 4. And write them all the way out until 12. And the numbers in this yellow box are square numbers. Okay? Our goal with adding and subtracting surds is to end up with square numbers underneath the square root sign. Because if we end up with square numbers under the square root sign, we can simplify. So square root of 4 is 2, square root of 9 is 3. See how it's a bit simpler to write them like that. But let's just start to practice. Now I've got our square numbers on the right-hand side. That's what we're going to aim to get under the square root sign. Square root, so I'm just going to call it root 48. Oops. Root 48. Now you can write it as factors underneath the square root sign. And again, the goal is to get square numbers under the square root sign. I know that 4 is a factor of 48. So I'm going to write that in there. 4 times 12 is 48. And then I can write this. I can actually write it further too, because 4 is also a factor of 12. So let's rewrite that. Rewrite 12 with a factor of 4. So 4 times 3. How about that? Okay. Then let's separate out the square root signs. So I'm going to write root 4, root 3, like that. And then I realize, what is root 4? Well, back here, 2 times 2 is 4. Root 4 is 2. So that's what we're looking at. We can rewrite those. And there's invisible multiply signs in between all of these surds, okay? So I can write 2 times 2 times root 3. And then our very last line, let's multiply those 2's. 2 2's are 4, root 3. Now let's look at the next one, root 20. Again, we want square numbers underneath the square root sign. So this is root 20, take root 5, sorry. So let's write it. Square numbers under the square root. Well, 4 is a factor of 20. That's nice. Oops. 4 times 5. And then the root 5, that can't go any further. It's not a square number, so let's leave it like that. And then I can rewrite it, separating into separate square root signs. And then root 4, well, 4 is a square number. 2 times 2 is 4. Root 5 stays the same. Now these root 5s, these terms are like terms, right? There's an invisible 1 here. So what we're going to do, we can just write 2 root 5, take 1 root 5. Well, 2 take 1 is just 1. 1 root 5. And we don't even need to write that 1 there. So that one is done. There is things called like surds, which can help us simplify further, which is nice. Next one. 2 root 125, take 3 root 45. Now, bigger numbers seem scarier, but it's okay. When 25 is in a number, right? 25 is listed there. Well, 25 goes into 100 4 times. So 25 goes into 125 5 times. I'm only mentioning 25 because it is a square number. 5 squared is 25. So that's why I'm thinking of breaking it down into factors. 2 root 5 times 25. Take 3. Now, what is happening to this 45? Let me have a think. Let me look at the square numbers less than 45 here. Are any of these numbers factors of 45? So it helps to write these out every time as a guide. Are any of these numbers factors of 45? Well, 1 is, but that doesn't help us. 4, is that a factor? No. 9 is though. So that's a nice little hidden factor there. 9 5s are 45. Now let's separate out those square root signs just to see everything. Root 9, root 5. Now you're looking for the square numbers. See, I can see there's a square under a square root and a square under a square root there. That's what we want. So 2, root 5, nothing happens to root 5. Square root of 25, 5 times 5 is 25. So let's just put that. And I have seen some students get a little bit confused. So just make sure you're writing that 5 without the square root sign. I've seen students write like root 25 and then root 5 times 5 and then they all get confused. It's like, what's happening? But just stay calm. All right. Take 3. Now root 9 is a square number. 3 times 3 is 9. So I'm going to write it without that square root sign. And then root 5. Now that root 5 is good because that means like surds. So we like terms, so we can condense it further. But let's simplify first. Okay, I'm going to pull these out the front, these normal numbers, because the order of multiplication doesn't matter. 2 times 5 is 10, root 5. Take 3 times 3 is 9, root 5. Have we made it as simple as we can? No, because there's like terms. So let's do that. We're just going to put down root 5, like terms. And then those numbers out the front, 10 take 9 is 1. And we can write it without that 1. We don't need it. Okay, powering through. Now, slightly harder, but not really. And we might even, let's have a look. It's okay. Yeah, let's keep going. So, always looking for square numbers. Now, straight up, in this one here, I can see that 36 is a square number. I can simplify that straight down. 6 is a 36. So, write it without the square root sign. Root 36 is 6. Now, let's have a look. 108. What are some factors, if we go through, are there any factors here of 108? Now it's even, right? I don't know. If you go through your times tables in your head, 9 12s are 108. But yeah, there's a few different ways to do it. I guess I could see 4 there, but 4 is also a factor. But 9 is a higher factor. So you really want to be all over your times tables. Now, root 25, that is a square number. 5 5s are 25. So root 25 is 5. And we can just write that straight down. Now, you always want to be simplifying as you go. So we may as well add these normal numbers. 6 plus 5 is 11. And now looking here. Let's actually write, we'll separate them out. Root 9, root 12. And we've collected that 5, so I don't need to write it. And now looking here, 11 take, 9 is a square number. Root 9 is 3. Root 12. Now that's an even number, so that usually means you can write some factors out and get down to square numbers, okay? So I know immediately that 4, one of these square numbers here, 4 is a factor of 12, so I can do that. And let's write it simpler. You don't have to separate out the square root signs every time. You can, once you start getting faster at it, you don't have to do that. But and then root 4 is 2. And I can see some like surds in here. Oops. 11 take Multiply those numbers out the front. -3 times, so take that sign out the front always. -3 times 2 is -6, or take away 6. Now we're getting a lot simpler. Is it in simplest form yet? No, we've got some like surds, so we may as well collect them. Here's our like surds. So just the numbers out the front. So -6, take 3, getting more negative on the number line. -9 root 3. And that's all you can do for that one. Now let's go to the next question. The last question. All right. Now you're always looking again for square numbers under the square root sign. Even straight away, I can see 49 is a square number. 144 is a square number. Let's have a look. So 49 is a square number. 144. Let's try them out. 7 sevens are 49. Nice. Plus, now this 288 looks scary, but if you think about your square numbers, what are some factors? We can write this as 140, or as 2 times 144. Okay, looking for those square numbers. Now, root 144 is 12, looking down here. Root 18, it's an even number. Can we write it as a product of a square factor somewhere? Yes, 9 goes into it. So you want to be all over your square numbers. 3 sevens are 21. Plus 2 root 144. Take 12, take 2, root 9, root 2. Separating out the square root sign so we can see clearly. And nothing happens to that root 2. Root 144 is 12. Write it straight down. And then root 9 is 3. And what else? Let's simplify. So simplifying between each step. Looking at this here, 2 root 2 times 12, we can grab those numbers out the front. 2 times 12 is 24 root 2. Take 12. Well, I could have added that to the 21, but let's do it in the next step. -2 times 3 is -6 root 2. Now, collect like terms. Normal numbers are like terms. 21 take 12 is 9. And then we've got these are like terms. Take that sign at the front. So root 2 is a like term. 24. So add the numbers out the front. 24 take 6. 24 take 6. I did not need my calculator for that, but that's all right. So it's 18 root 2. And that's all that you have to do. So I will stop the video there.